Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down, the greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Hey, this is Barry Blake, and you're watching Concerts That Made Us.
Perry Blake, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you.
Now, you recently released the album Death of a Society Girl. Can you take us more into it if you can?
Well, the record, I kind of started by accident. I released a record in 2019, Songs of Praise, and I couldn't tour it because of COVID. So I was kind of like a lot of people, a bit lost, faffing around, going, okay, we can't promote that record. I can't tour it. So I wrote a couple of tunes, maybe two, and then I suddenly had about five tunes for this record, and then I had a ton, and I narrowed it down to the I think it's nine on the record. I haven't heard the record since I mastered it, so I don't listen to my own stuff like a lot of artists. So I suppose it took about 2.5 years to fully execute, if you like. And then I had to wait an extra good few months for Paul McGann. He wasn't available to do the voiceover, the narration on the title track. I didn't really know what the record was until it was close to being finished. So yeah, it was a very much COVID record, which lots of them have come out recently. It's the world changed for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Something you said there struck me. You couldn't tour the other one. How did that affect sales compared to, say, your previous release?
It did affect it in that because it's not just the fact that you can't tour, but people are working from home, and a lot of people listen to music, but a lot of people started listening to records from their childhoods. A lot of people changed. Many people changed career. There were people in quite high flying jobs, and they got out of it and they went, no, actually, I want to teach or do something or make pottery. And I think that it was the same with the record. Like there were people, nobody was available. Basically, people, if they were lucky enough to have somewhere to go in the sunshine, they went on a long holiday. And we were fortunate in Ireland that the weather was amazing for the first lockdown. Like we had about 5 weeks of sunshine, which I think otherwise the sales of blue ropes would have been really high.
True, true. Now, the album, it was co-written and co-produced with your longtime collaborator, Graham Murphy. Give us some insights into what the working relationship is like between you two.
Well, it's unusual in that we've worked together for about 31 years, I think, and we lived together in London during the first album recording for about over a year and a half maybe, and we've never had an argument, which is really unusual. Graham well, he's an incredible musician, but he's a brilliant string arranger, and we just seem to musically, if it was a marriage, if it was a romantic situation, it would be perfect because musically we seem to be on the same path completely. And why that is, I don't know, but we have the same reference points for music, and it would be a lot of it would be left of center, but some of it would be almost corny Emma War. That's like the guilty playlist, if you like. Like we both loved tunes by David Gates, Bread. The least cool band you can think of, really. But the songs are brilliant in terms of their structure and their writing and the melodies, and even some of the lighter McCartney stuff, the solo stuff, which were never really cool, but yet kind of wanted to give those types of tunes a darker edge. So in some of my tunes, if you break them down, they're quite, some of the chord sequences, and they can be complex, but they're also, how can I say, there's something dark, naive about them when I listen back, and I don't often listen to my own stuff, but it's my take on it. But Graham, yeah, he's been great to work with. We're still working. I'm doing the next album is a kind of a trap R&B lounge kind of thing. No, I didn't even know I was making trap music until my stepson said, this is a trap album. Okay, what's that then? He said it's a bastard cousin of R&B and trip hop. And I'm like, all right, okay, that's what I'm doing.
Lovely.
I'm 54. I'm not. I've a very a limited knowledge of other people's music.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. When it came to recording production on this record, is there any challenges you faced or maybe memorable moments you can share with us?
Well, I can remember when in the old house where I have had my studio until last week, the boiler broke down and I couldn't get anybody to fix it for a week. So I remember wearing a duffel coat, trying to record vocals, and I thought, wow, well, I don't have to put any vibrato on that because it's there already. Because it's Baltic, it's a 100-year-old house, so that was a challenge. So I had a deadline by then because, I was finishing redoing vocals on one or two tracks I wasn't happy with. But no, the process of recording it's for me personally, it's a joy because it's just, I always like the newest tune, and I don't listen to the records after they're mastered. I don't listen to them. I don't go back. I'm always kind of trying to move forward. So.
I like it. I like it. Is there, I know you don't listen back to them, but from maybe a performance point of view, is there any tracks on the record that you gravitate more towards?
Yeah, I like Requiem because I don't fully understand it, and I like the title track. I think what McGann did added something. There's a mystery to it for me, and that keeps me interested. And it's great to play live, and it's kind of an odd mix of, there's a bit of trap there, R&B, but yet it's not schmaltzy. It's quite dramatic, and it doesn't sound, to me, it doesn't sound like much of what's out there, and that keeps me interested.
I get you. I get you. You've been in the industry for 26 years. At this point in your career, what drives you compared to when you started out? What keeps you going?
It's pretty much the same thing. It's the I mean, with the first album, I was signed to Polydor, and a lot of people would go for the uber commercial angle, and I had that ginormous machine behind me, and the advances were amazing in those days. But I didn't listen to anybody. I come from 7 generations of self-employed, and I kind of do my own thing. I could have, I believe the phrase, you might have to beep it out, but is suck the devil's. I could have I could have gone fully commercial and done the Coldplay thing or whatever, and I'm able to write that kind of stuff. It didn't interest me. I like old cars, and I've been fortunate in that I make a living out of music, but I'll never be pricing Learjets. So that wasn't the drive for me. It wasn't money. We all need money to live, but it was just to try and create something that you feel good about, that you can sleep well. And there's nothing wrong with good pop music if it's good. So no, and I never fitted into the kind of Irish narrative. I mean, a lot of people, they don't. If they're talking about Irish singer-songwriters, I would be the last person on the list. It's whereas say in France or Portugal, they go, oh yeah, we like this stuff. So it's kind of funny. Like, I've never been on the Late Show or any of that kind of stuff in this country, and I'm back living here for 12 years full time.
It's funny you bring up Ireland, because my next question was actually, how does a guy from Sligo go on to become massive in France and Europe, but I don't want to say barely get any recognition in your home country, but, how does that happen?
I suppose I didn't play the game, and also the music, the influences are different. Some people play the Paddy Wackery ticket, and they might do okay in the States or whatever. I wound up having a bit of a following in the States through Canada and through French Canada. So I was seen as a European, but a French artist. Now, in terms of my ancestors, were French Huguenots from actually would have wound up in Waterford in about 1730, and their surname was Benoit. And then you see the changes where they're marrying into Kellys and O'Toole's and this, that, and the Irish names come in, if you like. But it's so the the music just didn't sound like what was going on. The French lumped me in with the Bristol lot, Massive Attack and Portishead, which was flattering. I love both bands. So yeah, it's I. The funniest part of it is somebody asking you, so what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, I make music. All right. Do you sing in pubs? No.
The typical Irish thing.
Yeah.
Before we move on to some concert questions, I want to mention in the past you were known to collaborate with Francoise Hardy, the legend, who's sadly no longer with us. Can you speak to us a bit about your relationship with her, how it came about, what it was like working with her?
I was doing there's a very famous DJ in France called, he's still alive, Bernard Lenoir, and he's retired now. And he ran something called the Black Sessions, which are recorded for TV, but also they're live on radio. So no pressure there then. And that was my first gig, first proper gig in France. So one of the guests, the record had come out, and I mean, the record was well reviewed in England, and the only bad reviews I got were in Hot Press in Ireland. It's funny.
Right.
So the reviews, just went through the roof, and we were all a bit surprised because we went, "Wow, it's not a pop record and a bit dark and that." And so France was at the gig, but somebody got the name wrong. I didn't know what she looked like in terms of. I remember I listened to her records through a mate when I was a kid, and my French is very poor, so I wouldn't have fully understood them, but I liked the vibe. And I thought it was Jane Birkin because the woman from the company made a mistake. There was a woman from Polydor UK, and she said, Jane Birkin is here to see you. And I thought, oh, je t'aime. Wow. So then I meet just about 2 seconds before I was going to shake her hand. I went, that's not Jane Birkin, that's Francoise Hardy. It was my manager at the time, Neville said, and I went, oh, okay. So it was bizarre because they were both around the same age. Jane Birkin only died about a year ago, but a brilliant woman in terms of she didn't give a shit about fame at all. She was incredibly beautiful, but she had a dark soul. And a lot of people tried to emulate her, and she really just cared about music. And I wrote 2 songs for her Tante Belle Chose album in 2005. It came out, but I was producing 7 tracks on that. And she rang me one day on a landline at the studio, the other studio, and she said, Perry, I need to talk to you about the production. I went, yeah. She said, the 2 songs you wrote, I love the production, but the others, they are shit. I said, I had a funny feeling. I had a big argument with an Italian guy, Marco Sabiu. He kept trying to make them more commercial. And I said, that's not what she wants. You're sanitizing something. There were 5 tracks that we hadn't written. And some of them were by very, very famous French songwriters. So she just got other people to produce those, but she was very honest. She cared about the music. She didn't do small talk. Really, if I hopped into the studio missing a limb, she would go, you had an accident, did you? Yeah, I lost a leg. Okay, so what do you want to do with this song? That would be it. So it's cool.
Yeah. Oh man. Right, we'll dive into some concert related questions. So I'll start off easy. First off, as a concert goer, what concerts would you say have made you?
One that I loved was Dead Can Dance. Started their world tour in '93 at the Factory, a theatre in Sligo. It's run by Niall Henry, and it's just this blank space. They do a lot of Beckett and stuff like that, and they reinvent stuff. And so it's this just blank space, a dark black ex-pig factory. That's a theatre now in Sligo, and I saw Dead Can Dance there, and I happened to coincidentally know I don't know Lisa Gerrard well, but I know Brandon Perry quite well through my sister, who he lived in Beltur, but he recorded a lot of Dead Can Dance albums there in Cavan, believe it or not. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Brendan's originally he grew up in Melbourne. So yeah, it's just bizarre kind of thing that. So Dead Can Dance, the gig, it was just really pure. There was no kind of like clinking of glasses or safe home folks and no national anthem at the end. You know what I mean? It was,
Yeah.
and here comes the hit. There were none. They just made quality records. So that for me was a revelation. It was about 2 years before I got signed, and it kind of helped me change direction in terms of, if something happens to be slightly commercial and you can edit it for radio, that's fine, but not to create something just to for commercial purpose. And it was significant because I got signed within, I'd say, less than 2 years because I wasn't following the money. I was following the art. I wasn't, and it was. I look back, it was quite unusual. It was different, and that's why nobody in Ireland acknowledged it. In fact, I'm slightly going off tangent here in terms of the gigs, but I got a rejection letter from Polygram Ireland. My manager took great pleasure in ringing them and going, "Your boss in London signed this guy 6 months ago. Where are you taking us to dinner tonight?"
Oh man.
That was fun.
Yeah, I'd say so. Oh, and for any listeners or viewers that haven't caught one of your shows, what are they like? Give us the full experience if you can.
I'm very lucky now in terms of the shows, purely because of financial restrictions and with a small label in Cumbria, a jazz label, bizarrely. I have Graham playing piano. We use a Mac just for atmospherics and stuff in the background, but pretty stripped down. And I have a brilliant drummer from Kilkenny, Davy Long, and since he joined, he's been with me over a year. It's just the live shows are really good fun because without a drummer, it was almost like it became a little bit too much like a concert in terms of like theaters. But this guy joining, and plus he's a really good, he's an excellent singer, so his backing vocals, his harmonies are great, and he's a nice guy. So it's just three of us and a Mac, and it's a pretty big sound. But we try not to. We try to take out as much out of the backing tracks as we can, so it doesn't wind up sounding in any way karaoke. So live, yeah. The next gigs aren't until the new year in Portugal because the record came out quite late, so I missed out on all the festivals and stuff. So I have a good audience in Portugal, and probably do 3 or 4 gigs there. I think it's February, the end of February. So I'm recording a new album. I have about 40 songs, and I'll narrow it down to. I'll write another probably 40 and I'll dump a load. Thankfully, I'm hard on myself, It just, what's the point in making a record unless I think it's really good?
True. I asked someone this the other day. They had the same issue of having 30, 40 songs. You can't pick your favorite child. How do you narrow it down? What parameters do you set for this makes it, this doesn't?
Usually, there might be a tune and I think, wow, that's a great tune. That'd be a great single for somebody, but it just doesn't suit me. So it's usually the emotional quality. If there's something in it that I feel has a truth, and I've written a load of tunes. I've always kind of gone towards melody in a bit like the Paul McCartney thing. But sometimes it can be a great melody, a great tune, but it doesn't have an awful lot of soul. It might be a quality pop tune. And I'm going, well, to be honest, I'm probably 30 years too old to sing this. So maybe give it to somebody else or something, which occasionally I've done. So I actually had a serious malfunction in the studio about summer of last year, and I lost a ton of material that I thought I'd backed up, and it was a relief in a way. I have them on CD, so if we really, and I have them on another, not the files, but I have rough recordings. So if I really love them, I can recreate them. But it was like it was kind of, some people say one of the worst things that can happen to you is have your house burned down, but it can also be very liberating so long as nobody gets killed. It's like it was a clean out that wasn't intended. So this record is, I'll go through 2 or 3 pieces a week, and I'm mostly, out of every 5, I'll be lucky if I keep one. And some of them are, they're perfectly good songs, but they just, if they don't, it's almost a feel thing.
I get you. I get you. And back to the gigs. Over your entire career, is there a gig that, just couldn't have got any better? You regard it as one of the best you've done?
Yeah, well, the first album, it came out, and it didn't chart in England, but it went into the top 40 on the first day in France, which coincidentally was the first day I met Francoise Hardy. And it was the same day as Frank Sinatra died.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So for that, a few months later when I was touring, I did a festival in St. Malo in 1998. And I remember maybe third from headlining, and it was about 8 p.m. I remember walking on stage with a radio mic, and there were 40,000 people there, and I'm looking out going, whoa. And I had a full session band, as the drummer hit the snare on the first tune, the lights came up and 40,000 people went nuts. And I was like, whoa. that was yeah, it was impressive. It's kind of hard to beat that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
There were other gigs. I remember doing a festival in a 2-day festival in Madrid and Barcelona, and as a 3-piece, it was a good few years ago, maybe 2007 or 8 or something, 7 I think. Trying to think of the name of the festival. It wasn't Summer Case, but it was a festival, really good festival. And loads of people like Nick Cave headlining, and Jarvis Cocker was headlining another night, and blah blah blah. And probably I would have been on the second stage. We've been playing to 10,000 people 2 nights in a row in both cities. And the following Tuesday, I had been booked to do a gig in the Roisin Dove in Galway, and rarely played in this country because nobody came. And RTE Arena recorded it. There were 12 people there, and 5 of them were on the guest list. A mate from school and his missus, and like, this is a few days after you've played to 10,000 people. And I wasn't on the main stage, I was on the second stage, so they had actually come to see me, and I'm going, how do you why play where you're not wanted? So I've done very few since then.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. If you, here's a bit of a fun one. If you look back, a gig where everything went wrong, it's probably one of the worst in your history. How did you overcome it? Or is there a gig like that?
There is, yeah. And it was just after I was signed, I was doing a couple of, Polydor wanted to promote the record, and I said, what can we do in London that's quirky? I said, we'll do a square mile tour. And they're like, what? So it was Perry Blake's tour of Soho.
Right.
So I played in different kind of clubs. I played in Madame Jojo's, yeah, which is basically a strip joint in Soho. So the strippers get off the stage, and I'm doing half an hour, and all the industry wags are there, and they're all quaffing champagne and stuff. And we were using old ADAT machines with a cellist and a percussionist, I think. And the ADAT started playing at double speed.
Oh.
So I'm there, and I'm going, okay. So I just started kind of dancing and stuff, as in mimicking the strippers who weren't on stage at the same time, obviously. And I said, what else can you do? in the industry. They're like, what the fuck is that? So the head of Lucien Grange, who's now head of Universal worldwide, he came up to me. He went, he used to call me Pell, as in Pell for Perry. He went, Pell, you're a good singer, but you're a bloody terrible dancer. So that was that infamous Madame Jojo's catastrophe. So just laugh about it, you know.
Yeah,
I
true.
mean, I had an issue. I recorded a live album in Brussels with a full orchestra in 2000, and with Marco Sabiu. Marco's a very talented composer, but he came out to take a bow afterwards, and one of the techs had moved the monitor. So he took his bow in his tails and turned around and fell over the monitor.
Oh,
So he just ran. And Cirque Royale it's like the Royal Albert Hall. There's nowhere to run. It's a circle.
oh,
So everyone's
yeah.
around you. So he just liked it.
Oh,
So
lovely.
that was yeah, that was a tad embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. When it comes to showtime, pre-show and post-show, how do you psych yourself up, and then afterwards, how do you like to wind down?
Pre-show, apart from Graham and Davey, we'd just chill out together. I can't have anybody coming up to me asking me real stuff, you know. And my good lady knows that. She knows just to keep quiet and just that I have to zone out completely. And in the old days, after a show, you just get pissed. But if you're touring, you can't do that because you might have a gig the next day or whatever. And it's just so you kind of post show, if the show went well, you'd be on a high anyway. So you just, you'd have a few drinks. But, especially if you're touring, you're getting on a tour bus an hour later and you're heading to wherever, the next city or country. The pre-show thing is important, though. It's almost like I know very little about Zen Buddhism, but there is a zone you have to get into just to do your job properly. And the kind of music I make is not, it's not sort of, excuse me, happy clappy music. So it wouldn't be the kind of music that it's not really sing along stuff. So you just need to kind of it's almost like method acting. You trick yourself into getting into the zone, and you have to be there. And it doesn't always work. I remember doing a live TV show in France to probably about 6 million people or something. And we'd been rehearsing for 3 weeks in London, full band. I had Steve Jansen from Japan on drums, and we all had cabin fever, and we were taking the ferry, the tour bus, the whole thing to France. And we were overnight. We were on the ferry, and then we were on the tour bus. We ended up all of us getting hammered, like unbelievably hammered. And the tour manager was like, "You have a live TV show tomorrow night." Yeah, fine. So next day we were all unbelievably like the musicians were fine, but I'm doing live TV and the wonders of makeup and stuff. It's on YouTube. You would never know how. I thought I was going to do Bing Crosby as in projectile vomit on live TV, which apparently he did years ago. But I got through it and it was actually fantastic. I
Right.
looked at it and I went, how did I get away with that? I never did it again, though. As in, never did it anything like that with a hangover again. Because I was lucky,
Yeah, you learned your lesson.
big time.
And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then future plans. We've heard a bit about the gigs in Portugal, the next album. Anything else you can share about us?
Well, I've been doing as a kind of a sideline I've been at it for 12 years. I've been kind of, I wouldn't say kind of, I've been pitching screenplays and stuff, which is something I've been at for a very long time. And I got a bit of a bite with one. I can't really go into it too much because it might never happen. It's very hard to get stuff actually made. It's really hard. And it's a detective series set in Bristol in 1995.
Right.
So, and the soundtrack is a tricky tune, actually, as in not the soundtrack, rather the theme music. So it's yeah, got a bit of a bite on that, and I'm hoping to get enough funding to get a proper screenwriter in to put it together. We don't even know if it's a series or if it's a film, but it's fun and it's very good. It's something creative outside of music, and I don't have my own music in it, which is people are going, "You're mad! Why don't you put your own music in?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe if I write stuff for that specifically, but I prefer to use the music of that time, that the Bristol scene." But it's a detective thing, so it's it's far away from what I normally, in terms of songwriting. But yes, I'm just going to keep working on the record. As I say, it's a bit lounge, bit trap, bit R&B, dark, but you don't hear much dark music with bossa nova beats, and I'm kind of really enjoying that. I'm like, you know, it's like Nick Cave with a hula hoop,
Yeah. Oh, nice, nice. We'll dive into the last couple. So there are a couple of fun random ones. I'm intrigued to see your answers. First off, besides music, screenwriting, what are you currently obsessed with?
Yeah, I'm not into sport. I like F1. I was never into sport. So old films. I search out just movies I've seen or heard about, and I try and just find them online. So old movies, yeah. I'd be, I'd, I watch. I don't watch much TV, regular TV, but I watch a lot of films. Like I watch an average maybe 3 or 4 movies a week. That's my chill out time at night. And I'm a night owl, so but I still have to do school runs. I didn't today because two of them are a bit sick. They were colds. So I'm always knackered doing school run because I've been up watching movies till 4 a.m. Up at 7:30, so I just sneak a nap here or there and before I go to the studio. So that's my life, you know.
I feel like you just described me. I do the exact same thing.
Night time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Old movies and stuff like that, and then up early like a zombie.
Oh, completely. I don't wake up till about I'd say 2 o'clock really every day in terms
Mm,
of actually wake up.
yeah.
The only reason I'm up at 7:30 in the old days before I had stepchildren, I'd get up when I felt like it and go straight to the studio, eat when I felt like it, and then kids put a structure on you that's different.
Yeah. That's for sure. Takes a bit of getting used to.
Yeah.
The next one. It's a bit odd. If you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
I was going to say Graham Murphy because he just played it, so long as he had a Fender Rhodes, but he want to hang himself because I keep asking him to play the theme tune from Taxi over and over and over again.
Right. Interesting. Interesting. And the final one. What's your go-to album? An album you constantly revisit?
Well, that would be Secrets of the Beehive by David Sylvian.
I like it. I like it.
I haven't played it yet. Normally, on the 1st of September, I play the tune, the opening tune, September, or I put it online, but I haven't listened to it yet this year because I just didn't get round to it. But it's just an album that I think is very pure. Um, yeah, I mean, it's sold pretty well, but he didn't make music for money,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is why nobody, he doesn't turn up on chat shows or on Big Brother or any of that stuff. There's a quiet dignity to it. Um, Unlike the modern 15-minute people, they're everywhere, constant barrage of like half-talented people thrown at you. Some end up making tons of money, and it is what it is.
Unfortunately, unfortunately. Listen, Perry, this was an absolute blast now. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a
Yeah,
million.
me too. Me too. Thanks, Brian.
One of these days I'm gonna wake up, know just what to do. Maybe then I will see it from your point of view. If there's love, yeah, I'll take it. Not much else to lose. If there's love, yes, I'll take it. It's up to you, up to you. One of these days. One of these days. If it's not broken, I'll break it. That's just what I do. If it's not real, then I'll fake it. Just like you. Just like you. One of these days. One of these days. If there's love, yeah, I'll take it. And if there's love, yeah, I'll take it. It's up to you. It's up to you.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.